I wish I was Batman, not just for the cool reasons. I could fit in anywhere. One minute he's at a board meeting as Bruce Wayne, and the next he's in the most dangerous part of town, completely fearless. Unlike me, Batman is always in control of everything. This is a quote from Jordan Banks, the author of New Kid. It's a really great graphic novel that came out last year about a kid who just wants to be an artist and go to art school. And instead, he's starting seventh grade at a very upscale private school his parents are sending him to, where he is one of the only kids of color and just doesn't feel like he fits in. And on this slide, we also have Anything But Typical, another story about wanting to fit in. Our main character, Jason, is a child with autism, and he feels most comfortable posting his stories as his screen name online. So he starts to become friends with somebody, and they're really great friends online, but now there's a convention coming up, and she wants to meet him. And he is worried that when she finally meets him in person, she'll only see his autism and not the person that she's been seeing online. Gracefully Grayson is a story about acceptance of not only yourself, but from those around you. Grayson thinks that he might like to go to school wearing girls' clothes instead of boys, but he is concerned about what people will think about him. And there's a very important event coming up at school, and with the help of a teacher, he might decide to take the plunge, and regardless of how people will react. For those of you who are into adventure stories and danger, these two books might interest you. Piqued by Roland Smith is the story of a kid who gets in trouble in the beginning of the book for scaling a tall building, and as a punishment, his father sends him to climb Mount Everest, which might sound like a lot of fun, except this kid does not want to go. He doesn't feel ready, he's scared, and guess what? He's going. Our next book on this slide is Life as We Knew It, and this book asks the question, what would happen if a meteor slammed into the moon and pushed it closer to the Earth? What do you think would happen? You can imagine that it might set off tides, which might really disrupt nature. Well, this is what happens in the opening pages of Life as We Knew It, and it's told in diary format of a teenager who's struggling with her family to survive. This slide has some of the choices I have for you mystery lovers out there. Beyond the Bright Sea is the story of a girl who was raised on a very small island with a few companions. She was set adrift in a boat as a baby and abandoned. And she has always wondered what lies beyond the Bright Sea and what her origin story is. But an unstoppable chain of events is being triggered in this book, leading her down a path of both discovery and danger. And Margaret Peterson Haddix is one of the queens of adventure and mystery. This story is about a set of twins, whose mother is getting remarried. And the new stepfather also has a set of twins, but they've never met them before. And it seems really weird that all this time their parents have been dating, they've never met. So what does this family have to hide? Margaret Peterson Haddix always throws lots of twists and turns into her books, so you will probably be guessing until the very end. Caroline B. Cooney has been writing mysteries and thrillers for a long time. She's gotten really good at it. In No Such Person, we have a pair of sisters who are very different, and one is quite charismatic, starts dating a new guy in town, and then is accused of murdering him. And our other sister, who is shy and reserved, believes her sister is innocent. And as she starts to dig deeper, she wonders about her sister, herself, their family, and their town. Here's two books that deal with drama at school. Rachel Vale's Unfriended has been really popular at the library the past few years. It's about a girl who really just wants to be accepted and part of a popular group of girls, and she's pretty shocked when they take her in. But then, of course, things don't go as she had hoped they would, and as it works a lot these days, a lot of the things that are happening end up on social media as well. The Defense of Thaddeus A. Ledbetter is also a problem at school, but this book is very different. This whole book is a letter to the principal about why Thaddeus A. Ledbetter does not deserve detention. It's a very funny book, illustrated with his journal entries. And if you are you don't consider yourself much of a reader, you might be able to get into this book quickly because it's so funny. Paper Hearts is based on a true story of two women, Fanya and Zlatka, and the story of a paper heart that they kept with them throughout the Holocaust. It is actually now on display at the Montreal Holocaust Memorial Center. Having an item during World War II, when people were in concentration camps, was strictly forbidden. And the fact that these girls were able to carry this paper heart is a symbol of their defiance and their hope, and a source of strength that maybe helped to get them through this horrific time. The Devil's Arithmetic is also about World War II, but it's also very different. Paper Hearts is told in verse, and The Devil's Arithmetic tells the story of a girl who, on a Hanukkah holiday, opens the door to her house and is transported back to Poland during World War II. This Land is Our Land, A History of American Immigration, is 6 chapters that covers immigration from 1800 all the way up until 2015. This book is chock full of photographs, flyers, paintings, interviews with famous people and non-famous people, and you will learn a lot about these individuals who immigrated here and also about government policy. Author Kelly Link has quite the imagination. In her book Pretty Monsters, you will read 9 short stories where everything is not quite as it seems and everything deserves a second look. In The Curiosities, we have 3 very good young adult authors who normally write horror and fantasy, egging each other on, and so they've challenged each other to write these very strange stories, and then in the book you have their critiques and their emails to each other and their doodles on the page, as you are kind of like into this private conversation they're having, and the outcome are some fabulously great stories. Countdown and Revolution are books 1 and 2 in Deborah Wiles' The 60s trilogy, with the 3rd book coming out very soon. It is about a teenager who lives in Washington, D.C. during the Freedom Summers, 1960s. Civil rights, the music scene, so much was happening at the time. But don't be dismayed by the size of these books. They are quite thick, but that is because they are chock full of photographs and letters and newspaper articles and lots of primary sources mixed in with the novel, which makes a very cool, interesting format of book to read. Goodbye Stranger by Rebecca Stead is a perfect realistic fiction. It's about a bunch of kids who are just starting the 7th grade, boys and girls, and how they are changing and how they are changing towards each other as well. So it's a story about friendship and growth, and you'll have to read to see what the dramas are that might tear these friendships apart. And in the seventh most important thing, this book is actually based on a real life, very not so well known artist from the Midwest. And in the very beginning of this book, a kid gets in trouble. I won't tell you what he did, but he ends up having to make a decision between going to the juvenile detention center or doing community service. And the person that he harmed actually says, well, he can do his community service by working for me. And there's something very unique about this person that he'll be doing the work for. And I'm not going to tell you any more about this book. I'm not going to tell you the seventh most important thing or what our main character will be doing, but it will be a very strange few months for him. This is a really beautiful and very unique book on your list. Same Sun Here is a novel told in two voices, an Indian immigrant girl who lives in New York City, and a Kentucky coal miner's son who find themselves pen pals for a school project. So this book is told completely in letters back and forth to each other, and they learn that they have a lot in common. They both have fathers forced to work away from home. They both have a very strong relationship with their grandmothers. They both have dogs, but they also have a lot of differences. And the way their friendship develops and the way this story is told is just really, really cool. Kwame Alexander is awesome. This book, Rebound, is a novel in verse, and it's a prequel to his book, The Crossover. But you don't have to read The Crossover first to love Rebound, but Crossover is also an excellent book, so I recommend them both. Rebound is the story of a man who is reliving his childhood and thinking about how the ways he grew up and his grandparents and how he got into basketball and loving jazz. And it has a lot of humor in it and obviously sports. And like I said, you should definitely also read Crossover because in that book, the main character is grown up with his own sons who are playing basketball. So they really go nice together. Oh, I love how middle school drama plays out in graphic novel format. Brave is so funny and charming, and our main character, Jensen, is a superhero in his dreams, but is having a hard time being brave in middle school, and I just love him and his group of friends. And if you enjoy this book, you should also check out her other graphic novel, Awkward. This is a companion novel to it, so Jensen is the main character in Brave, but in Awkward, he is sort of a secondary character to some other characters. So you get to visit the same school, the same world in Awkward and Brave. The Faithful Spy is a nonfiction graphic novel about Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a German pastor during World War II, and he was absolutely shocked that not only the German people, but also people in churches were so on board with Hitler's agenda of hatred. And as a pastor, he was supposed to be living a non-violent life. And this is the story of how he got caught up in a plot to kill Hitler. Okay, so remember that these lists are just suggested. You can actually read any book you want, and the more books you read and the more you log onto our website's summer reading contest, the more chances you will have to win grand prizes in our raffles at the end of the summer. Many of the books on the list are available as ebooks, digitally, or audiobooks, and if you check out the website here, you can see all the lists of books and which are available in which format. If you need additional help, you can fill out my book recommendation form on that website as well, and I will send you personalized recommendations.